Please welcome Alastair Campbell. Were you railing backstage there, listening to that, Alastair?
A little bit. Lesley was right about everything, as she always is.
Because it's Great Britain to you, is it?
It is, yeah. It is. I think it's the best country in the world. I do, absolutely.
Yeah?
And I think also you've got to be really careful about this immigration business. I mean, all these people who say in this opinion poll that they want to immigrate, they can. They can go anywhere in the European Union, and Europeans can come here. And
Are you right about that, though? Because if you try and get into Australia or if you get into America, you cannot. You
there's
cannot.
A point system. There's a point
around.
system.
You have to have a job to get into these.
There are now all sorts of restrictions on people coming into Britain, just as there are in Australia. In fact, our system is in part based on theirs. But I do think, I mean, I couldn't hear which one of you made the point about the press. A lot of this is utterly media-driven. It was you. Well done, Lesley.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, the media it plays a huge part in this new novel of yours. And I have to say, when I had this sent over to me last night and I started to read it, and it's everything I didn't expect from you.
Oh.
A political thriller, absolutely.
Yeah.
But a book about a movie star and her relationship with a childhood friend. I didn't expect you to be that interested in fame, to be honest. It seemed a little fluffy for you.
Oh, fluffy, is that good? Can we put that? Can we put that on the paperback? Fluffy.
Yeah, I'll read that one.
Well, no, but it seems
I'll
light as
read
a
that
subject matter is what I mean. I don't mean that in a derogatory
No,
way.
I think that... But the thing is, let's be honest, one of the things that is, in my view, less great about Britain is we're now completely obsessed with this celebrity culture. And it's in a sense what it's about is showing that there's a downside and as well as an upside to the whole fame thing. So what it is, it's the relationship, as you say, between a film star and somebody she goes all the way back with, and it's what fame does to people, for good and for bad. Now, it's not a polemic about the celebrity culture. The media doesn't come out well, and I think that you were talking about John Terry and his wife. I mean, anybody who's in the public eye, dealing with the 24-hour media now, it's a big pressure.
Yeah. And it shows, doesn't it, that there seems to be this grey area where celebrity and news merge together. And I mean, I don't get that. I don't get how what happens to a celebrity, to me, that isn't news. You know what I mean? It's a dumbing down of the news media.
Well, what's happened is, I mean, when I was a journalist, started 30 years ago, you had the tabloids, you had the broadsheets, you had the broadcasters. They did different things. But now they're all kind of in the same marketplace.
I mean, I used to make your tea on the Mirror.
I remember.
And you were a political journalist on a tabloid newspaper at a time when actually the Mirror covered politics. It still does, obviously, but you were considered. It was a serious position to hold.
We had two guys at the Mirror then who just covered the debates in Parliament. Now none of the papers have people apart from the guys who write the jokes. So we go on about there's no respect for politics anymore. In every single day, in every single minute of every day, the media are telling you not to respect politics. And when you go on about the politicians sort it out. What did we sort out?
Please do.
No, but hold on a minute.
You're an advisor, aren't you?
Right, but let me tell you some of the things that... How many Prime Ministers tried to sort out Northern Ireland? Tony Blair did it. That's politics. That's governments making a difference. Lesley talks about the National Health Service in Doncaster. We've had the biggest schools and hospitals building programme in the history of this country since 1997, since the foundation of the NHS. Now, you never hear about it.
No, because it goes back to my point that good news is no news.
But I don't agree with that. I think the public actually wants something a bit more balanced.
But they're not getting it, are they?
No, they're
getting
not.
Jordan's marriage to a cage fighter, but they're not getting about the really important stuff that affects our day-to-day living, our kids,
our families, our
parents.
I agree with that, but I'll tell you what's happening. The reason why I think this social networking stuff is taking off, and people actually, more and more people are consuming news through each other. You tell each other on Facebook and Twitter the things you maybe are interested in. I don't get the papers. We get 2 papers now at home. Used to get them all. Barely ever watch the news, but every day I'll spend half an hour and things that friends send me I'll look at and I'll read.
But you're still very much, you're still very much involved in an advisory capacity with the current government and with the election looming. I mean, this must be an exciting yet frustrating time for you because you're kind of on the fringes, not in the thick of it as you were at the last time.
No, well, I've been through 3 elections and 24/7, and it's very, very hard. I mean, I am advising a bit, but I actually.
So what are you advising on? What are you doing?
Well, I talked to Gordon about Prime Minister's questions and interviews and overall strategy and attacking the Tories and that kind of thing. And I talked to him and Peter Mandelson and some of the others. But partly because of what I know about the 24/7 media, I know I don't want to get back into it. And I think one of the things that comes through the novel is, there's a bit of it where it's like just 9 pages of Sky News of them sort of going into one of their frenzies about when a marriage breaks up within the book.
So do you think going back to our Prime Minister now, if you change his image or you advise him on what to do... Well, obviously, should he change his image? Is that it?
I think in any walk of life now, there's so much focus on you can only be yourself. There's
do you think he can do the job? Can he turn it round? Can he bring it round?
Yes, because I think what's happening... Look, up till now, it's all been about Labour, and in particular all been about Gordon. The press have been giving him a kicking like hell for quite a while. A little bit of scrutiny is starting to come on the Tories, a tiny bit, and they're already starting to flake. And I think, come a campaign, Cameron's never been through the sort of experience he's going to have in an election campaign. It is tough, and you've got to be able to put up with pressure. You've got to be resilient, and Gordon is resilient, and he's got a policy agenda, whereas Cameron doesn't.
Well, Alastair, let me raise this point with you, because... I believe, my personal belief is that Gordon Brown is the right Prime Minister for this country, for this time, and he gets my vote. So that's my stand. But
well, that's two. We've got two.
But he's not showbiz. He's not a showman like Blair. And I think that to capture the imagination of the floating voter, is that not a big problem for you right now?
Well, look... an election is just millions of individuals making decisions. Now, I can remember when, between 96 and 97, coming up to our first election, when I'd be going around the country with Tony and I could feel people coming over to us. They sensed that this guy was absolutely right for times. Now? What I think now is it's very difficult when you've been in power so long to be presenting yourself as the party of change, because people do want change, as you were saying.
To feel exciting.
But actually, I think that in a funny sort of way, Gordon's strength has up till now been perceived as his weakness. I actually think he's got to say, I don't care if I can't communicate as well as Tony or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton. Just understand, just over a year ago, we were facing an economic meltdown right around the world. The reason that we're actually all feeling pretty confident about the future, much more, I think, than that Times poll would suggest, is in part because of some pretty difficult decisions Gordon took back then, at a time when Cameron was saying, do the opposite.
Can we raise the issue of difficult decisions? Because, obviously, you've had a very testing time of it recently with the Iraq inquiry, and at the weekend we saw you let your guard down slightly in the face of some tough questions, and you're a man that's used to tough questions. Is this inquiry taking its toll on you and your party?
Again, it's for people to judge. I think the reason why I got really frustrated on the BBC the other day is because the truth is I've been asked every single question on this thousands of times. And people like Andrew Marr and others in the media, they really don't care about the answers. They've made up their mind. They've decided we were wrong, they were right. They've never had to make a difficult decision in their lives. Their big decision for them is, one glass or two at lunchtime.
My point is that, it is a horrific decision. I don't think anybody would want to be the person that had to make the decision to take this country to war. And I just wonder now, all these years on, what are the personal effects that's having on you in the aftermath of all of this?
I mean, look, in the end, I suppose the other reason I get frustrated is that I left Downing Street 7 years ago.
But the war continues.
Well, certainly wherever I go, if I'm talking particularly to the media, it's what they want to talk about. But I do think there's an awful lot of sort of resetting the agenda, rewriting history going on. And the point I keep trying to make, and I've been through now Foreign Affairs Inquiry, Committee Inquiry, Intelligence Committee Inquiry, the Hutton Inquiry. Now, this is the fourth inquiry. Same questions, you give the same answers, but it's never, ever going to satisfy those who think that it was the wrong decision, or worse, those who think it was the wrong decision and we were venal about how we made that decision. Now, if somebody's going to believe for the rest of their lives that there's some great conspiracy there that has yet to be exposed, well, let them get on with it, but I've got no time for conspiracy theories. And I've just got to say to people that I was one of the few people who saw Tony Blair making that decision at every stage of the process. And when I hear people glibly say, he did it for oil, he did it for George Bush, he did it for this, you don't make a decision like that unless you really, really, really think it through and think you're doing the right thing. And I just wish, again, I think a lot of this, you're going about the newspapers, most of the newspapers at the time, or a good proportion of them, they were saying, come on, get on with it. Saddam's been a threat for too long. The Tories, William Hague the other day saying that he was misled, the rest of it. William Hague, the Tories were taken through the same material as Tony saw.
And said that they would have made the same decision.
Not just that, they said, get on with it, why are you taking your time? Yeah. And now, because the wind's blowing in a different direction, they're starting to look a bit flaky again.
OK, well, we could talk about this forever, and I'm sure you feel like you have spent forever discussing this and more, and still... the questions will continue. But in the meantime, you've been burying your head in a book of your own making. And we wish you the very best of luck with this. May it's a novel of fame and friendship, and I hope that your fame and your friendship bring you a few...
Oh, I've got a lot of friends, don't worry about that. And no, but I think it does... It is an interesting thing. There's an upside and a downside to being well-known. I mean, you will all know this in different ways. I'm just talking to Ian McKellen now. I mean, he was saying, for example, he's by nature a very shy person, and he actually likes the fact that if he goes into a room, people will gravitate to him in a way that he might not go to them. I find sometimes, and the impulse for the novel started when I was in a restaurant with my daughter.
I'm so sorry, Alastair.
Oh, we're going to shut me up?
Yeah.
Out of time?
I do apologise.
Sorry.
But it has been a pleasure to have you. Even nicer not to have to make you a cup of tea this time. Ladies and gentlemen, Alastair Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you. OK.